In today's review, we have the stunning XPS 16, Dell's refreshed premium laptop range with a compact yet solid design. With a beautiful OLED screen, dedicated graphics, Wi-Fi 7, haptic touchpad and a new style keyboard with OLED touch keys. But these laptops don't come cheap, so tonight we're going to take a look around it, test out its performance and work out if this laptop is the laptop to blow your last year's wages on. So this year, Dell have replaced the XPS 15 and the XPS 17 with this new XPS 16 and the XPS 14 that we reviewed last week. Now the 14-inch was a lovely machine but quite underpowered with a maximum RTX 4050 graphics card, whereas this XPS 16 can be configured right up to an RTX 4070 along with a Core Ultra 9 CPU, 64GB of fast RAM and a 4TB SSD. You can also choose a 1200p IPS panel or this beautiful 4K plus 90Hz OLED screen. And it can be bought in either this gorgeous looking platinum colorway or the more traditional carbon fiber. Now within the configuration in Dell for this laptop, it starts at £1,849 in the UK, but you can go right up to £3,800 if you max it out. Now for our review model, we chose a more sensibly priced configuration with the Core Ultra 7 CPU, the OLED screen, 16GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD, and it all came in at £2,699. And also, when configuring this laptop, there are other factors you need to be aware of that Dell don't make clear. Now firstly, on the 4070 model, it gets a vapor chamber but loses one Thunderbolt 4 port and instead gets a USB-C port. And this is quite an important factor with regards to the performance because these RTX cards, although efficient, run pretty low power budgets in these XPS laptops, as we'll see later on in the performance section. Only if you configure the 4070 do you get access to the faster RAM, plus all of these laptops have soldered RAM due to the fact that they use these new Core Ultra CPUs, so you have to make sure you configure the RAM you need when you buy the laptop. And despite being a 16-inch laptop, we only get one M.2 SSD slot, whereas even the XPS 15 from last year had two. Now with the configuration out the way, let's look around this laptop. And despite being a 16-inch laptop, it's incredibly compact and much smaller than the Lenovo ThinkPad P1 Gen 6 that I've been using for a while now. Yet despite its size, it feels incredibly dense, weighing in at 2.2 kilograms if you get the OLED display model. But being dense, it does give it a solid premium feeling. And this laptop is built like a tank. There's no flex or creak in this laptop. Being all aluminium on the outside, it has a nice solid feeling with just a Dell logo on the top and an XPS logo on the bottom. And with regards to the ports, we get two Thunderbolt 4 ports on the left, and on the right we have a micro SD card slot, a headset jack, and either a Thunderbolt 4 port, unless you configure that 4070 card, in which case you get a USB-C instead. So as these ports are quite limited, Dell do also include a USB-C dongle in the box, which has a USB-A and an HDMI port on it, just to bring some of those ports back. Now opening the hinge is not the easiest, as there's no cutout on the front of the laptop, and also the hinge is very firm. But once you actually open the lid, you get a very stable screen with no screen wobble. Now looking at the palm rest, this is a complete change from the previous XPS 15 and 17. The top side is made from glass and the haptic touchpad is invisible, but surprisingly works incredibly well as they have given it such a large area. And being a haptic touchpad, you can click anywhere for it to work, unlike the old mechanical springboard style touchpads. The keyboard now has larger keycaps, leading to a comfortable typing experience, but it has white backlighting. And to be honest, this is not always the greatest experience in a lit room with this platinum model. So very often when I'm in a lit room, I actually turn the backlighting off the keyboard because then the actual keys are easier to read. Now if this bothers you, then you may wish to opt for the actual carbon fiber model where it has black keys which provides more contrast with the white backlighting. The keyboard also now includes the Windows Copilot key, and this brings up your very own Copilot Windows AI assistant. The power button is on the top right and also doubles as a fingerprint sensor that works accurately to log you in. Then above the keys, we get the OLED touch row, which can be used as either standard function keys or multimedia keys. But as good as these look, I wish Dell had used a haptic feedback on these actual keys so you could feel when you activated them. Now either side of the keyboard, we've actually got speaker grills, and Dell have included a 10-watt 4-speaker system, and they sound like this. Speaker test of the new XPS 16 starting at 50% volume. and 80%. And finally, 100%, sorry to the neighbours. Wow. For a Windows laptop, I'm really impressed. I want to test that up against my MacBook Pro 16 because, you know, it is loud and that's some nice clear sounds. Moving up to the screen, we get the highlight of this laptop, the 3840 by 2400 OLED touchscreen with a 90Hz refresh rate. Sadly, we don't get 120Hz like we get on the XPS 14, but even at 90Hz, this certainly feels a lot more responsive over last year's 60Hz OLED panels. The screen is bright, colours pop, there's minimal bezel, leading to an amazing viewing experience. And if you buy this laptop, I really recommend you do get the OLED over the 1200p IPS panel, which is slightly brighter and 120Hz and lower power consumption, but at the expense of visual fidelity, a touchscreen, and pixel density. Above the screen, we have the webcam. And this is a test of the webcam and the microphones on the new Dell XPS 16. We have the auto framing feature, as with most of the modern webcams now. This is really handy if you're slightly off-center from the camera, though they are quite slow to update. But I believe the picture quality looks pretty good. Let me know in the comment section down below. We also have the eye contact mode, and we have the standard blur, and my favourite, the portrait blur, which is quite nice if you're in a messy office. And this also includes Windows Hello, giving a second option to speedily log you into Windows. Okay, so let's look at the performance of this laptop. We've had our hands on a few Core Ultra CPUs this year, but this is the first Core Ultra with a long-term boost well over 45 watts, and it really shows in our benchmark scores. Both Geekbench 6 and Cinebench R23 performed incredibly well against the similar classes of machine. The benchmarks were all running in the Ultra mode, but you can change the profile within the My Dell application, and they offer 4 very different profiles: Optimized, Ultra, Quiet, and Cool. And you can see in this matrix just how each of those profiles work. Moving on to the GPU, and we have the RTX 4060 with traditional heatsink and fans, and therefore it only gets a maximum of 50 watts. Now if you buy the 4070 version, you do get the vapor chamber, which should get you an extra 10 to 20 watts on this GPU. Sadly, when gaming in ultra mode, the laptop couldn't even maintain the 50 watts for long, and seemed to sit at about 40 watt in both the ultra and the optimized modes. It still managed to play the finals really well at 1200p and high settings. Now the cool mode made gaming impossible unless you enjoy playing solitaire, but the quiet mode dropped the GPU to 30 watts and maintained a playable and quiet experience. And do bear in mind, this isn't a gaming laptop, this is more of a creator's laptop that can game on the side, but at least when you know that you can game on this laptop, it's going to cut through all your productivity tasks. This thing will eat up video editing, photo editing, 3D design, which is exactly the design task for this laptop. Also, performance on battery was very good and only a few percent lower than when it's on mains, leading to a very snappy feeling machine whilst it's on battery. Now this laptop includes a 99 watt hour battery, which gave it pretty impressive battery life as well. We managed 8 hours and 10 minutes, completing our usual tests of streaming YouTube over Wi-Fi at 200 nits of brightness. And considering this has got a 90Hz OLED panel, that's a pretty good result, and much better than the XPS 14 that we've just reviewed. Now also, because this laptop is powered via the USB-C, you can either use the incredibly compact 130 watt charger that Dell provide, a Thunderbolt dock, a monitor with power delivery, or even a decent power bank to keep you going. So then on to the conclusion, and overall this machine is beautifully designed and a well-built creator's laptop. It's expensive, but as always with Dell, you either wait for one of the many sales or a discount coupon to get it at a sensible price. But despite how great it looks and the performance on offer, I can't help but feeling that Dell have taken 1 step forward and 2 steps back if you're coming from a Dell XPS 17. On the positive notes, the laptop trackpad, OLED screen are a massive improvement. But for the negatives, we only get 1 SSD slot, non-upgradable RAM, and it maxes out at a 4070. Last year's XPS 17 would come with up to a 4080, 2 SSD slots and 2 RAM slots. And you can probably buy that one now at a much cheaper price than this XPS 16. So unless you really need the latest and greatest, I'm not sure how much value this currently offers. Well, that's my thoughts on the Dell XPS 16. It is a beautiful laptop, but I certainly don't think it's for everyone. As always, I'd love to know what you guys think. Pop it in the comment section down below and I will get back to you. And lastly, thanks for watching.